Welcome to Literary and Jury Charge Practice. Let's start out with this jury charge. Ready? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the contentions of the defendant are that the Walton Company, through its unincorporated division known as the Walton Chemical Company, is marketing a complete system of materials for all-weather pool covers under the name Glastic, where the K is eliminated from the name, which system is commonly referred to as Walton's Glastic, again spelled without the K, and which system was developed through experimentation at one of Walton's laboratories, and the defendants contend that in so doing, Walton denies that it is violating any rights of any of the plaintiffs in the case. The further contention of the defendant, Walton, is that it denies that Glastic is as used by the plaintiffs constitutes a valid trademark or trade name. Walton denies that plaintiffs have any exclusive ownership in Glastic, and Walton denies that its use of the name Glastic constitutes an infringement of any rights the plaintiffs may have in their name, that is, the plaintiff name Glastic with a K. Walton further denies that the system for pool covers which it markets incorporates any trade secret or trade secrets of the plaintiffs, and denies that any trade secrets of the plaintiffs were disclosed to the defendant, and the defendant further contends that although denying the validity and alleged ownership rights of the plaintiffs in the trade name Glastic, Walton states that when it adopted its trade name Glastic without the K, for which they made an application to register it, it was completely unaware of any use by the plaintiffs or anyone else of Glastic, Glastic, for all-weather pool covers. Now, in order that you would have an understanding as to what a trade secret is defined as to what a trade name is defined as, and as to what the meaning of all the legal contentions are, the court will at this point review these matters for you, and I will do it slowly so that you can absorb this as I go along with these instructions. I will first define for you what is meant by a trade name. A trade name is descriptive of the identity of the owner of the business and identifies the source of the product or service or the business itself, and need not be affixed to the product, although it may serve to identify not only the business but also the product. There is a distinction in the law between a trademark and a trade secret. The trademark is applicable to a vendable or saleable article and serves to identify it. A trade name relates to a business and its goodwill. The plaintiffs claim an exclusive proprietary right to the name or word Glastic. At this point, I'm not even going to spell it for you because the plaintiffs contend that whether you use a K or you don't, it's still the same Glastic, so I won't spell it for you. Even though it is not a registered trademark or a trade name, it is for you to determine whether it is a trade name. Get back to that jury charge another time, finish it up, but for now let's try some more of this, the government's proposed jury instructions. Ready? Here we go. 24. On or about May 23, 2007, Riley purchased a quantity of tannerite, a binary explosive compound, which he and others known to the grand jury later used and mixed to create improvised explosive devices, which were destructive devices, at the residence of Edward and Elaine Brown in Plainfield, New Hampshire. 26. All at dates uncertain, but from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, while at the Brown residence, Riley, with others known to the grand jury, assembled booby trap devices made from pipe couplings, end caps, springs, firing pins, and cotter pins, which were destructive devices. 26. At dates uncertain, but from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, a co-conspirator known to the grand jury assembled improvised explosive devices while at the Brown residence using cans of gunpowder and fuses, which were destructive devices, and 27 at dates uncertain, but from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007, a co-conspirator known to the grand jury assembled improvised explosive devices known as pipe bombs using gunpowder, pipe end caps, and fuses, which were destructible devices. In order for you to find a defendant guilty of the offense that is charged in count 1, you must unanimously agree that the government has proven the following 5 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant and at least one other person entered into an agreement to use force or to intimidate or threaten employees of the United States Marshals Service. Second, the defendant knowingly joined the agreement. Third, the defendant acted with an intent to prevent employees of the United States Marshals Service in the discharge of their official duties. Fourth, the defendant or another person who participated in the conspiracy performed at least one of the overt acts that are identified in the indictment in furtherance of the agreement. And fifth, the employees of the United States Marshals Service are officers of the United States. Count 2 of the indictment alleges from in or around September 2007 through in or around September 2007 in the District of New Hampshire and elsewhere, the defendants Daniel Riley, Jason Gerhardt, and Cyrano Gonzalez knowingly and willfully conspired and agreed with each other and other individuals, both known and unknown to the grand jury, to commit the following offenses against the United States. A. Forcibly to assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, and interfere with federal law enforcement officers in the discharge of their duties. 2. Wit, attempting to arrest Edward Brown and Elaine Brown in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 111A1, or B, knowing that offenses against the United States had been committed by Edward Brown and Elaine Brown, received, relieved, comforted, and assisted Edward Brown and Elaine Brown in order to hinder and prevent their apprehension, trial, and punishment in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 3, and that one of the conspirators committed at least one of the overt acts that are identified in the indictment, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code Sections 371, 111A1, and 3. In order for you to find a defendant guilty of the offense that is charged in count 2, you must unanimously agree that the government has proven the following 4 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the defendant and at least one other person entered into an agreement to A. Assault, resist, or impede officers of the United States in the discharge of their duties, or B. Receive, relieve, comfort, and assist Edward Brown and Elaine Brown in order to hinder and prevent their apprehension, trial, and punishment. Second, the defendant knowingly joined the agreement. Third, the defendant acted with intent to further its unlawful purpose. And fourth, the defendant or another person who participated in the conspiracy performed at least one of the overt acts that is identified in the indictment. Count 3 of the indictment alleges from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007 in the District of New Hampshire and elsewhere, the defendants Daniel Riley, Jason Gerhardt, and Cyrano Gonzalez, knowing that offenses against the United States had been committed by Edward Brown and Elaine Brown, received, relieved, comforted, and assisted Edward Brown and Elaine Brown in order to hinder and prevent their apprehension, trial, and punishment, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 3. In order for you to find a defendant guilty of the offense that is charged in count 3, you must unanimously agree that the government has proven the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. First, that the Browns committed a felony. Second, the defendant knew the Browns committed the felony. And third, the defendant received, relieved, comforted, or assisted the Browns in order to hinder or prevent the Browns' apprehension, trial, or punishment. Count 4 of the indictment alleges that defendant Gerhardt carried or used a firearm and a destructive device in connection with a crime of violence, or that he possessed a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence. Defendants Gonzalez and Riley are charged with the same offense in counts 5 and 6 respectively. In this regard, the indictment alleges from in or around January 2007 through in or around September 2007 in the District of New Hampshire and elsewhere, the defendant Daniel Riley, Jason Gerhardt, and Cyrano Gonzalez knowingly and intentionally A. carried or used one or more of the firearms that are identified in the indictment during and in relation to crimes of violence for which the defendant could be prosecuted in a court of the United States, to wit: 1. Conspiracy to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, and interfere with federal law enforcement in the official discharge of their duties attempting to arrest Edward Brown and Elaine Brown in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Sections 371 and 1A1, or 2, conspiracy to prevent officers of the United States from discharging their duties in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 372, or B, in furtherance of such crime of violence, possessed one or more firearms, all in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Sections 924C1A and B. Right, let's see what we have here as far as some literary practice. This is called Journey House. Ready? Here we go. In an instant, everything can change. What used to be a home is now someone else's house. Those once considered family are now just acquaintances. Suddenly, things like food, shelter, and clothing are hard to come by, and all that is left is just yourself. It is a harsh reality, what some 20,000 young Americans face each year once they turn 18 and age out of the foster care system. According to recent statistics, nearly 25% have no high school diploma, 40% have been homeless, and only about half will be employed by the age of 24. Tim Mayworm is all too familiar with this scenario and has been working to do his part in alleviating the situation since 1983. That is when he founded Journey House, a nonprofit organization located in Pasadena dedicated to assisting emancipated foster youth in their transition to adulthood. Right now, we are helping 150 former foster youth, most who are in college or working on getting there, Executive Director of Journey House, Mayworm, said. But first, we have to assess their individual needs, whether it is food or housing, and there is usually some counseling involved. Together with his partner, Jorge Carmarera, Program Director, he has built up Journey House to be a safe haven for foster youth who have nowhere else to turn. And like many nonprofits, they rely on donors for support. We have a program called Adopt a Student, which allows a family to pay for a student's college expenses as much as they can, Mayworm said. Schools, for the most part, do not give them 100% scholarships, so Journey House steps in to supplement. For the last 10 years, the University of La Verne has been a university of choice for the many first-generation college students who go through the Journey House program. La Verne's campus size and community atmosphere offers a lot of opportunities for foster youth to be successful, and thanks to the joint support they receive from both La Verne and Journey House, graduation is becoming a reality. I'm a teacher myself, and to see a former foster youth graduate from college and make a living without breaking the law is one of the most joyous aspects of the work we do here, Mayworm said. Success stories are the ultimate goal for Mayworm, which he recently found in Dominique Rivas, 14, and Christopher Bice. That means class of 14, by the way. So Dominique Rivas is in the class of 2014. All right, we will finish that story another time. And then we'll get back to, let's finish up our jury charge that we started a little while ago. Ready? Here we go. The issue here is whether the defendants use the word or name You know I shouldn't use the word name at this point because now it is an issue for you, so maybe I better use the name word. But in any event, the issue here is whether the defendant's use of the word Glastic in the conduct of its business constitutes unfair competition, and if so, whether the plaintiffs have sustained any damages. Before you can find that the defendant has infringed upon the plaintiff's use of the name Glastic by using the name Glastic, the plaintiff must establish by a preponderance of the evidence the following essential elements. 1. That the name Glastic is a trade name rather than a combination of two words in the English language which are in the public domain and which are descriptions of a glass stick. I paused so you would know I am now using two words, glass stick. 2. That such a name is used by the defendant without privilege to do so in a manner which is identical with or confusing similar to plaintiff's use, although defendant does not use the name for the purpose of deception. 3. That the plaintiff's use of such name, if you find it is a trade name, is protected with reference to A. the goods, services, or business in which the plaintiff uses such name, and B. the markets in which the plaintiffs use such name, and C. that the defendant also used such name, or one so similar thereto as to be confusingly similar, and uses it in a manner and for purposes similarly used by the plaintiffs. 4. That the plaintiffs suffered damage as a result of the use of such name, if you find it to be a trade name, so I should say as a result of the use of such trade name by the defendant. And lastly, the plaintiffs must of course also establish that they had a prior right, if you find such right existed, which was prior to the use by the defendant of the name Glastic or Walton's Glastic, again it being a factual issue for you, members of the jury, to determine. All right, let's see here. Get back to our jury charge. Another jury charge that we had started. Ready? Here we go. This is an action for copyright infringement. A copyright is the exclusive right to copy. A copyrighted work can be a literary work, musical work, dramatic work, pantomime, choreographic work, pictorial work, graphic work, sculptural work, motion picture, audiovisual work, sound recording, architectural work, mask works, fixed in semiconductor chip products, or a computer program. The owner of a copyright generally has the right to exclude any other person from reproducing, preparing derivative works, distributing, performing, displaying, or using the work covered by copyright for a specific period of time. One who produces or distributes a copyrighted work during the term of the copyright infringes the copyright unless licensed by the copyright owner. In this case, each plaintiff contends it is, and at all relevant times has been, the copyright owner or license of exclusive rights under United States copyright with respect to certain copyrighted sound recordings, and that the defendant, Jamie Thomas, without the permission or consent of such plaintiff, used an online media distribution system known as CASA to download the plaintiff's copyrighted recordings and or to distribute the copyrighted recordings to the public. Each plaintiff contends that Ms. Thomas's actions constitute infringement of its copyrights and exclusive rights under copyright. I will now instruct you on the elements of the plaintiff's claim for copyright infringement. In order to prevail on their copyright infringement claim, the plaintiffs must prove two things. First, the plaintiffs are the owners of works protected by the Copyright Act. Second, the defendant infringed one or more of the rights granted by the Act. Each of these aspects has several elements that I will explain to you. The first thing that each plaintiff must prove is that it is the owner of works protected by the Copyright Act. In order to prove this, such plaintiff must show either that it is the owner of the works in issue or that such plaintiff is licensed by the owners of those works, permitting the plaintiff to claim ownership of those works or the exclusive rights to the works. A plaintiff's certificate of registration of its copyright is what is called prima facie evidence of the element of ownership. In other words, if there is no evidence against a plaintiff as to that element, the registration certificate alone is sufficient to establish that element. In addition to establishing that the plaintiffs are the copyright owners of the works in question, the plaintiffs must also prove that the defendant infringed the plaintiff's rights in those works. Each plaintiff claims in this case that the defendant violated its exclusive rights to reproduce and distribute its copyrighted works. One who either reproduces or distributes a copyrighted work during the term of the copyright infringes the copyright unless licensed by the copyright owner. The act of downloading copyrighted sound recordings on a peer-to-peer network without license from the copyright owners violates the copyright owner's exclusive reproduction right. And we will stop there. That will conclude our literary and jury charge practice.